paced back and forth in my cell, glad I'd been taken out of general population, but horrified at my sentence of death. In a way, I almost wish they left me with the gang members. The slow build-up to my fate was nerve-wracking. I reminisce on the events that led me here. I gripped the bars as I began to cry. It was a Friday night. My neighbor Tom invited me to have drinks and watch the big game. His wife Wanda was preparing a big meal, and after bringing the homemade wings into the living room, she joined us. It was a fun-filled night, plentiful in beer and joyous laughs as we gathered around the TV. At some point, I got up to use the bathroom, and that's when I blacked out. I jolted up as the screams of Tom bounce off the walls in a horrific echo. I look over, his wife covered in blood. My hands are cut and battered. Tom ran towards me, delivering a swift kick to my jaw and restraining me as he called police. I begged and pleaded for Tom to stop and just listen to me, that I had too much to drink and I would never do this, but he wouldn't listen. The cops took me away, and at my trial, it was revealed that I'd cut her throat with a shard of a beer bottle. I tried explaining that I had no memory of this, but my honesty wasn't well received by the jury. They gave me the highest sentence possible for my drunken act of violence, and here in Alabama, that means the chair. I remember my spine shaking as my sentence was read aloud, the weight of my circumstances draining my remaining life force. After they brought me back into the prison, I was moved to death row, where I've been for years. I maintained a decent level of hope for a while, but one by one my appeals were rejected, and I was out of options. A larger than normal grouping of guards began walking down from the end of the corridor, their keys jingling with each step. My heart began to race as they stopped at my cell, the warden now towering above me as I sat on my bunk. My face twisted with fear and turmoil as the warden uttered the words, "It's time." They brought me into a new cell. The prison chaplain visited me, and they gave me my final meal order form. The knots and pains in my stomach destroyed my appetite. I couldn't think of anything I'd be able to eat. As I prayed to God for resolve, I just wanted to understand where I had went so wrong. I filled out the meal form, requesting a hot plate of wings and some beers. I tossed and turned on my mat, unable to justify sleep knowing that I had a mere days to live. They brought my meal for lunch the next day, granting my request, but depositing the beer in a small plastic cup rather than a bottle. After finishing the food, I was left in confusion. I'd thought that reliving a component of the event would bring me insight, or at least some kind of solace. The last shred of hope now gone, there was nothing left but time. In what felt like only hours, the walls of my cell began to spin. My mind was racing, and once again I heard the subtle jingling of keys. I began hyperventilating, sweat covering my body. This was the moment I'd woken up to so many times in the night. The terrifying dream that was becoming reality. They take me to the chamber, a scent in the air revealing the faint aroma of death. The guards place me towards the viewing window. I could barely make out the faces of the family behind the tent. Moments of silence pass as one of the guards waits with the prison phone in hand, standing by in the event of a call from the governor. The family rises out of their seats as the plate is tied to my head. Tom approaches the glass. He stretches out a subtle smile, putting his hands around his face so that only I could see. "Please, Tom, I didn't do this. You have to believe me." Just past the fog of his breath on the window, and the last thing I saw before they put the hood on was his mouth gesturing the words, "I know."